Imagine this. Tokyo, 1980s. Somewhere in the city, a wrestling tour has just wrapped. The matches are done. The sweat is still drying. And somewhere between the adrenaline and the exhaustion, a group of the most dangerous men on the planet are looking for one thing: a good steak. And they all know exactly where to go. There is a place in Tokyo that doesn't look like much from the outside. No grand entrance, no velvet ropes, just a small restaurant with a worn sign. A grill that never seems to cool down, and walls that have absorbed more wrestling history than most halls of fame. Its name is Ribera Steakhouse, and if you know, you know. If stories like this, the hidden landmarks, the untold traditions, the places where legends were made away from the cameras, are the kind of thing that keeps you coming back, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started. To understand Ribera, you first have to understand what life was like for foreign wrestlers on tour in Japan. This wasn't a vacation. Japanese pro wrestling tours were brutal. Night after night of hard matches, long bus rides, unfamiliar food, and the constant pressure of performing in front of crowds who expected nothing less than war. You were a guest in someone else's house, and that house had very specific rules. For many Western wrestlers arriving in Japan for the first time, it could be isolating. The language barrier was real, the culture was different, and after a grueling match, all you wanted was something familiar. A real meal, a cold drink, and maybe a few hours where you could just breathe. That's where Ribera came in. Located in Shimokitazawa. Wait, let me get this right, because this place deserves accuracy. In Shimo Meguro Ward, Tokyo. Not glamorous, not a tourist destination, just a neighborhood steakhouse that had no idea it was about to become hallowed ground. Now here's where the story gets interesting, and honestly, very on brand for the wrestling world, because nobody can quite agree on who discovered it first. Chris Jericho, in his book, credits Stan Hansen, says it was Hansen who walked through that door back in the 1970s and started the whole thing. But Hansen himself? He says no. According to the man with the lariat, the first American wrestler through those doors was Bruiser Brody. And the restaurant? They back Brody's version. Their story is that it was Brody's visits that put Ribera on the map for the wrestling world. So we have Jericho pointing at Hansen, Hansen pointing at Brody, and Ribera nodding along and saying, yeah, it was Brody. You know what? In pro wrestling, the truth is almost always more interesting than the myth. And the truth here is, two of the most legitimately terrifying men who ever laced up boots, Hansen and Brody, were both in that restaurant early enough that nobody's completely sure who got there first. Picture it either way. One of those men walking through the door for the first time, taking one look around, sitting down, ordering the biggest steak on the menu, and deciding then and there. This is the place. Word spread through the locker room the way only wrestling gossip can. Fast, loud, and everywhere at once. And just like that, Ribera became something more than a restaurant. Now close your eyes for a second. I want you to imagine a single night. It's somewhere in the mid-1980s. The tour is done. The boys are hungry. The door opens, and in walks Stan Hansen, all 6 feet 4 inches of barely contained chaos, still carrying that aura of a man who just finished a fight. and wouldn't mind starting another one. He finds his usual spot, orders his steak, doesn't say much, doesn't need to. Then Bruiser Brody arrives. You hear him before you see him. That presence, that energy. Even in a steakhouse, Brody fills the room. He slaps someone on the back, hard enough to rattle their fillings, and drops into a chair like he owns it. Because in this place, in a way, he kind of does. Then the door opens again, and the floor, actually, trembles slightly. André the Giant has arrived. There are no words for what it must have been like to share a restaurant with André. The man needed a chair that could hold him, a table that gave him room, and a kitchen that understood the assignment. Ribera, somehow, always delivered. Then come the road warriors, Hawk and Animal, taking up space the way only they could, loud and absolutely unbothered. The Steiners, not yet the legends they would become, but already terrifying. Big Van Vader, still carrying the energy of whatever destruction he had just delivered in the ring. And somewhere in that room, nursing a quiet beer and watching everything with those sharp eyes, Masa Saito, making mental notes as always. This wasn't just dinner. This was a gathering, a council, the kind of room where stories were traded, rivalries were quietly acknowledged over a shared meal, and the wall between competitor and colleague got just a little thinner. Different nationalities, different promotions, different styles. But in Ribera, all of that dissolved. What remained was simpler and more powerful. They were all wrestlers, and this was their place. Here's where the Ribera story goes from interesting to legendary. At some point, and no one seems to agree on exactly when, Ribera began giving out jackets to their most special guests. Not to everyone, not to tourists, not to people who wandered in off the street, to wrestlers. The Ribera Steakhouse jacket became one of the most coveted items in the world of professional wrestling. Not because of what it cost, but because of what it meant. You couldn't buy your way into that jacket. You couldn't ask for it. It was given. And the giving of it was a statement. You belong here. You are one of us. In a world where status is usually measured in championship belts and pay-per-view buy rates, the Ribera jacket operated on a completely different currency. It was the currency of respect, of having put in the work, traveled to the other side of the world, competed in front of crowds that demanded everything you had, and survived. Wrestlers who received that jacket wore it with a pride that went beyond words. It showed up in locker rooms across America, in backstage photos, in gyms. A small piece of Tokyo carried around the world, a secret handshake, stitched into fabric. Every great landmark has its legends. Ribera has more than most. There is the story, and if you've been watching this channel, you already know it, of Scott Norton, the man with 24-inch arms and the most devastating powerbomb in New Japan history, sitting down at Ribera after a brutal match and bypassing the enormous stakes entirely. Plates of corn, just corn. This absolute physical specimen, who had just survived a war in the ring, wanted corn. Nobody questioned it. That's Ribera. You were yourself there. There are stories of André requiring what amounted to multiple meals worth of food in a single sitting, of the kitchen simply rising to the occasion. Because what else do you do when André the Giant is hungry? There are stories of Hansen and Brody, two of the most legitimately terrifying men in wrestling history, sitting across from each other and talking quietly. Two apex predators at rest. The restaurant somehow feeling both completely normal and absolutely electric at the same time. There are stories of young Japanese wrestlers being brought to Ribera by their seniors, wide-eyed, understanding immediately that they were standing somewhere that mattered. A rite of passage disguised as dinner. And there are the conversations that happened there. Deals discussed, respect exchanged, feuds quietly acknowledged, that never made it into any interview or documentary. The real wrestling history that lived in that room, spoken between bites of steak and never written down. That viewer who commented on this channel put it better than I could have. They said Ribera deserves to stand alongside Madison Square Garden, the Omni, the Budokan, the Tokyo Dome, the Mid-South Coliseum, and they're right. Those arenas are sacred because of what happened inside them. The matches, the moments, the history made under the lights. Ribera is sacred for a different reason. It's sacred because of what happened between those moments. The human side of the story. The part that never made the highlight reel. Professional wrestling, at its core, has always been about more than what happens between the ropes. It's about the culture surrounding it, the relationships, the traditions, the unspoken codes that get passed down from generation to generation. Ribera Steakhouse is where a lot of that culture lived. It's where a foreign wrestler, exhausted and far from home, could sit down and feel like he belonged somewhere, where rivals shared a table, where legends were made not through championships, but through the simple act of showing up, night after night, and earning the respect of the room. In Japanese culture, there is a concept, the meaningful space between things, the pause that gives the notes their music. Ribera was the of Japanese pro wrestling. The space between the matches where everything else happened. And it's still there. The grill is still going. The jackets are still being given out. The legend continues. The next time you watch a match from 1980s Japan, whether it's Hansen destroying someone with that lariat, Brody running wild through a crowd, or Norton putting someone through the mat with that power bomb. Just know that somewhere in Tokyo, after the show, those men were probably heading to the same place. A small restaurant, a worn sign, a grill that never cools down, and a room full of the greatest wrestlers who ever lived, eating steak, or in Norton's case, corn, and being, for a few hours, just human. That's Ribera. That's the holy ground. Thanks for watching. If this is the kind of wrestling history that speaks to you, the stories behind the stories, the places and people that built this sport from the ground up, subscribe and stick around. There is so much more to tell. See you in the next one.